Coming up today on Issues in Education, student athletes work hard for success on the field and in the classroom. But which one takes priority when a professional sports team calls them up before they reach graduation? We talk with one student who recently had to make that decision. Plus, we look at the challenges facing student athletes as well as the academic and athletic departments that support them. Welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, alongside my co-host, the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron. You may be familiar with the name James Ramsey. He's the FSU baseball player who was drafted this summer to play for the Minnesota Twins organization. Instead of taking the offer, he decided to return to finish his degree in finance and stay with the Seminole baseball team for his senior year. James joins us to talk about his decision and the challenges facing student athletes. Also here are head coach Mike Martin and Dean of the College of Business, Caryn Beck-Dudley. They're here to help us understand the challenges academic and athletic departments have when working with student athletes. Thank you, all of you, for being here today. Thank you.
So, you know, at FSU, we spend a lot of time talking about the engaged student, the student that's successful in and outside the classroom in all sorts of activities. And in many ways, it seems to me that James epitomizes that student. So just to begin things off, how good a ball player is he?
Well, President Barron, I'd like to say that this young man led us in hitting last year and was selected All-American by 3 different publications and led our team in home runs and RBIs. And I would say that we were all surprised that he was drafted in the round that he went in, the 22nd, because we all thought he would be a 1 through 5 round.
And what kind of student is he?
He's a great student. He's in finance, which is one of our most difficult majors. He's one of our top students in finance, and I believe he was an academic All-American this year in baseball, which is very difficult to do.
James, let's get a little background from you. What made you decide to come to FSU to go to the College of Business and play for Coach Martin?
Starting out at a young age, Florida State was always the school for me. Both my parents attended Florida State. My mom played tennis. My dad played baseball. They both graduated from the business school, and growing up, my room was painted garnet and gold. There was no real option. So I like to think that I was more so seeking out being part of the Seminole tradition before I was even recruited to play baseball here.
You know, and you think about how much commitment it takes to be excellent in more than one activity, and these two are very time-consuming. How do you manage that?
I think it's extremely important to realize that with one success comes another, and so I think that if I wasn't as involved as I was, I would like to think that my time management may be going other places. But just having to realize that you only have so many hours in a day, and when you're trying to be the best student and the best athlete that you can be, that you really have to take each into account. Whenever you're going out to practice, you have to realize that you're going to be as efficient as you can for those 2 hours you're on the field, and then as soon as you leave, you have another purpose in mind, and it's representing the university.
Let's talk a little bit about the decision. At the end of last summer, last season, or beginning of the summer, end of last season, where were you thinking? Did you think you were going to go off and play professional sports, or did you think you were coming back here to school in the fall?
Absolutely. I thought that I would be starting my professional career after my junior year. I think that it was something in talking with professional scouts, talking with advisors, talking with my parents, my coaches, everyone thought that you always have the dream to play professional baseball as a kid growing up, and that having that opportunity a year early is an extreme honor. And so I thought I would take that. I went up to the Cape Cod Baseball League after the Florida State season was over and had a great summer, had some great success, and was very fortunate to have the opportunity to go up there and play. And when it got down close to decision time, I took a lot of prayer and reflection and took a lot of time out to make this decision, but realized that the platform that I would have with my faith, with my education, and also on the field was something that I didn't feel like I wanted to forego just yet.
And was that contract terms, were they secret, or is that something?
It's something that it is a little secret.
Okay.
There's always the ins and outs and the little pieces. I think that financially it was a great decision to go pro, that it is something that as a junior you have a little bit more financial leverage to leave after your junior year. I think that given opportunity, and the Twins are a great organization. They run top to bottom a very successful organization. That they have a brand new stadium they just put a lot of money into, and they're really trying to forward their organization. So having to deal with such a great team, it was a tough decision to not join the Minnesota Twins. But ultimately, next year will come and I'll have the opportunity to go play professionally for another team or the Twins as well.
And have your degree.
That's right.
Were both of you surprised when you heard that he was going to stay?
Well, I must admit, when James left here, it was an understanding between he and I that if he had a good summer in the Cape, and that if the Minnesota Twins continued to make attractive offers, that it would be very difficult for him to return, because we want all of our young men to aspire to be professional baseball players with the understanding that academics come first. And James, of course, had his priorities in order, and the offer was very attractive, but I think just the fact that Florida State is what it is, and the fact that his leadership qualities are so important, that he decided to come back to Florida State.
We always encourage our students to do what they are passionate about, but at the end of the day, I am the dean of a business school, and I like to see the students cross the stage and shake their hand and get their degree, because when his baseball career is over, and he knows this, he will have a top-ranked finance degree, and will be able to use that in whatever he decides. And so I wasn't that surprised, actually.
Although you were very happy, weren't you?
I was very happy because I called President Barron.
You called me and said, James Ramsey is staying in a finance degree, and so you were very happy.
Very happy.
Yeah. Is it difficult to advise someone when you know they're a star player and they're also superb academically, and their lives could be successful in a lot of different ways, and here's an opportunity, but boy, it's great to have that player back? Is it hard? I mean, there is a little bit of a conflict there mentally, I'm sure. Is it hard to advise a student under that circumstance?
I'd have to ditto what Dean Caryn just said,
Yeah.
because you want your young men to be satisfied with their decision. You don't want to mislead them in any way. I knew that James was going to be successful in whatever avenue he chose. Certainly, him coming back to Florida State was a tremendous advantage for us because of what he brings to the table. He's a great leader. He's a young man that people look up to. And like you said, in a little selfish statement here, but we don't have James Ramseys to come along an awful lot, and we have a very young team coming back, and we knew that James would be perfect for this leadership role.
Mm-hmm. You're changing how the captainship works this year, or you're doing something special with that for James?
I would say that everybody has had a captain in the last 6 or 7 years in which they dictated that they were captain by putting a C on the jersey. I've never been one to promote that because of the fact that I want everybody to feel so-called important. James Ramsey deserves to have a C on his chest, and we have decided that we're going to do that for the first time in the history of our program, because I could think of nobody more suited than James Ramsey to wear a C on his chest.
Congratulations, James.
Congratulations, that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your parents and their business degrees and how they have factored into your career academically and in sports.
Right, I think that it's always something that people look at. Both my parents were athletes, and that's the first story, is that, coming and playing at a university where your mom was a star tennis player, your dad was a captain 31 years ago for the baseball team, and they always look at the athletic side of it. But for my parents, from day one, growing up, you did your homework before you went outside, and they were a lot more proud of me when I would make the honor roll or have receive opportunities to go to an Ivy League school. And those things were extremely important because at one point or another you are going to hang up your cleats, and baseball is no longer going to be there on the field. But looking at some of the other things that I may want to do with my finance degree, work in an MLB front office one day, it's something that my parents have always urged me that your education is something that no one can take away from you.
What did they think about your decision to wait another year?
They were extremely supportive. I had a great support staff, family, friends, teammates, coaches, people close and far away from the Florida State family. They all realized that I have something, a platform that is tough to give up when you're trying to talk to people about your faith, and you have opportunities, speaking engagements all over the city, to be able to tell people kind of what you're all about. They were extremely supportive, and realizing that once again, financially, I would have been set. It would have been a great situation. I'd have been sitting there, with money, but it was a lot more than a money decision for me. And realizing that, time is so valuable. And my time here at Florida State, I've been given so much by this university. I'm trying to give back as much as I can, especially in this last year.
So we hear that from your parents and from your coach and from your dean. How about your teammates?
They were real excited. I think in the age of social networking and all that kind of stuff, it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes before everyone was kind of writing stuff on their own accounts, and it was exciting. But I think it's been great because we have a lot of new guys this year. We have, I think, 15 freshmen, and being able to be a leader in the aspect of you have to follow some of those guys in order to be a great leader. And so I've come and been in a program where there have been a lot of great baseball players and great people, and I'm just lucky that, looking back 4 years ago, I didn't think I would have had the chances I did, but because you put a lot of hard work in and you trust in those teammates that now I'm having an opportunity to lead them is something I don't take for granted.
You're also on the Student Athlete Advisory Council. Explain what that is and how that helps student athletes.
Right, it's my second year as the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Council. When people kind of come up to me and ask me, well, what is SAC, people call it? What is the Student Athlete Advisory Council? Is it some kind of thing that you guys, hang out, or is it? And I said, well, actually, I like to put it as kind of my analogy is the tip of the spear as far as the athletic department is concerned. There are 2 representatives from each team, so we have 42 members, and it's an opportunity to get some of the leaders on each team together and be a liaison between the university and the athletic department, and then also from the athletic department to the respective teams. So I think the student athletes did over 7,000 hours of community service last year, something that the Student Athlete Advisory Council, takes pride in leading that. The academic process, we have a great support staff and are continually trying to make the experience for Seminoles that much better.
So, this truly is engagement, not just on the field, in the classroom, but also in organizations like that. So step into an athlete's shoes for a little while and tell us what are the challenges that an FSU athlete is facing today as a student?
This morning, for me personally, it's getting up at 5:30 in the morning for a morning workout, and it starts in just the challenge of getting out of bed after being, watching some baseball last night, and then doing studies after that, and making sure that on a daily basis there's some physical exhaustion that goes into it. Having practices year-round, trying to excel in a sports program that placed all 19 sports teams in the NCAA postseason for the first time in the NCAA history. Florida State was the first institution to do that. So there's your physical training. Then also trying to maintain a level of academic excellence. It's something that never stops. Even when you go home for the winter or summer, there's always ways in which students are trying to become engaged in this university. And then as far as a leadership role, there's all types of campus organizations. I was able to go in with 2 former student athletes, one of which Christian Ponder, and start the first student-run chapter of the Red Cross and the Red Cross Knolls, and being able to certify 300 people with CPR certification at Dick Hauser was something that those are the opportunities in working with campus leaders that you really do not take for granted. You try to always better this university, and it is really the engaged way to go about it.
How do you manage your time? Do you sit down with the schedule for the entire week or the semester and try to figure that out? How does that work?
I'm kind of old school about it a little bit. I just keep a piece of paper folded up in my pocket at all times. I'm not as good with the big planners. I feel like it always ends up getting lost and just class to class to practice. But I think the biggest thing is having a great accountability group. I mean, whether it's our coaching staff does a great job of budgeting our hours for us. So when we know we show up at the clubhouse every day, all we have to do is just say yes, sir, and work hard. And then after that, you're working with other campus leaders that are always pushing you to better the university. And so it's something that, I try to keep others accountable, and I love getting text messages from, a member of an organization that says, hey, we need you at a meeting tomorrow night, and we'd like you to represent the athletic program. So it's tough, but I think over the couple years I've learned how to manage it. It's really just becoming engaged with other students on campus.
So Caryn, you in the College of Business must have a lot of student athletes that go through the college. Do you see special challenges from the viewpoint of the college?
The college is hard to get into, so they have to be academically prepared. You have to apply in. It's not an open entry process. The classes are difficult. Finance is particularly difficult. And to me, it's just the time management with taking difficult classes, being with people who are very good as well. He competes with very, very high quality individuals in the classroom, and just the travel that they do. You know, the missing of the exams, they're having to reschedule exams, the missing of the lectures, they're having to make sure that somebody's taking good notes for you or that you get notes. Good relationships with the professors so that they know who you are and that they understand why you might not be in class, especially baseball. Baseball has, I don't know how many times you're gone, but it'll be a lot. And so one of the things we ask our advisors to do to help them, and I think they're advisors at athletics, is to make sure that in the off season they take the particular type of classes that you can't really miss class very often. And then in the non-season that you take the classes where you're going to be there much more frequently. But we have great students, great student athletes, and we're always happy to help them.
Coach Martin, what about you dealing with the student athletes? What do you see as being challenges for your department working with their class schedules and trying to, I mean, when you're dealing with 38 players and trying to work practice around class schedules and engagement issues on campus, how do you work that?
Well, I want everybody to understand we've always put academics first. If a young man has a tutorial session that falls around practice time, he will go to that tutorial session. If a young man has a test the next day and maybe he slid a little bit on a Monday, Tuesday, and the test is on Thursday, then he will ask for study time on Wednesday and we'll give it to him, because we always want everybody to know they didn't come to Florida State to play baseball. They came to Florida State to get an education. So if that's managing the time correctly, fine, but that's the way we do it. We put academics first.
So you had this last year, I think, 16 of your players were on the ACC honor roll, which is above a 3.0. That's got to be close to half of your team. So do you recruit smart players and you know are going to achieve well?
That probably helps.
Do you put a lot of pressure on them to achieve academically? You just said that it's extremely important to you, but do you start out with a good hand?
We try to bring the best student athlete in that we possibly can. If a young man is a 2.5 student with a high SAT score, we know that he will apply himself a little better once he gets here. If a young man is a marginal student and barely acceptable, we do not hesitate, because we know when we get him in here, if he commits the way the rest of them have done over the last few years, then he will get the job done in the classroom. Obviously, we love to get the ones that are organized to a degree that you never worry about whether they're going to fall behind in the classroom as a result of missing a day of class.
What kind of communication does the athletic and the academic departments do? Do you ever talk to each other about the subjects, or is it more of a university policy?
No, it's more of a university policy. I mean, really the College of Business is independent from the athletic operation. We're very focused on the academics, and so athletics is really treated like any other student organization. The students have student-accepted excuses. We encourage that in the college for students to be involved, whether they're an athlete or involved in other student organizations. But I think our advising staffs probably work more closely just for pure scheduling purposes and to make sure that the students are on track for graduation. In the college, we really don't see them until they were juniors and seniors. James probably came in a little bit earlier because he probably had AP credits. But because of that, it's very important that they take the proper courses in the proper sequence. And our advising staffs, I think, work very closely with the academic advising staffs in the athletics department to make sure they take the right credits at the right time.
So if we have 600 or 700 athletes and we have 41,000 students, does anybody tell you why so much effort is being put into a relatively small population, or does nobody worry about that?
I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the reason why the reason why I don't worry about it is we actually have almost 6,000 of those students in the College of Business. And we like to give all of them an individual attention experience. So whether it be through athletics, whether it be through our Women in Business, whether it be through our Student Leadership Council, we try to break that number down into smaller groups in order to make sure everybody has a great experience. So if he gets his great experience through athletics and everything else he does, I'm thrilled about that, because that meets and somebody else gets it through student government and somebody else gets it through Greek life. I am thrilled that they've had an individual attention experience at Florida State, because that's what we strive to do.
Yeah, good.
James, can you tell us, for people who are going to be coming to FSU and plan on being a student athlete, whether it's in baseball or it's in another sport, what suggestions do you have for them to be a successful student athlete right off the bat?
I think the biggest thing is realizing that they can make this experience as great as they want to be. I think that President Barron and I have talked a lot about the opportunity I had to look at Ivy League schools, and that, you know, a lot of people consider that to be the greatest education out there. And I think that, you know, having the opportunity to get in the honors program at Florida State, I thought that I could have an elite education that competes with any other university out there, and also have an athletic experience that, you know, at a elite athletic program that is bar none best across the board.
Thank you very much. We've been talking with James Ramsey, Coach Mike Martin, and Dean Caryn Beck-Dudley from the College of Business. When we come back, Dr. Barron and I will talk one-on-one about more issues in education. Welcome back to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, talking with Dr. Eric Barron, the president of the Florida State University. Dr. Barron, we've been talking about student athletes at FSU, and specifically James Ramsey. Was his decision to return for senior year a surprise for you?
Well, I think, you know, you have a great offer going into pro baseball. That's got to tempt anyone, and I'm not so sure, but that most people wouldn't accept it. But he's just a unique individual, very committed, and committed to excel in multiple ways, and he's going to.
Why is his decision such a good thing for the university?
You know, actually, I think whatever decision that young man makes will be good for this university, because he's a great role model. If he's successful in the pros, and I know he will be, then it's a great role model. If he's successful in finance, again, this is somebody that is going to be a great role model and will continue to give back to the university. For him to say, I have to make sure that I have my degree before I go out and play pro ball, I think is a statement for any athlete, because as James himself said, there's someday he'll have to hang up his cleats, and then he'll have that great FSU finance degree that's there. Or, you know, for all we know, he's just going to do a fantastic job of investing the money that he gets as a pro ball player, right?
As president, you hear about the good and the bad things that happen in the world of student athletics. How hard does the university work to balance the academic side and the athletic side of things?
Well, I think it becomes more and more of an issue as we go through time, as we realize that some sports nationally have very low graduation rates and not necessarily a great success rate in the pros. It does become a rather small set of people when you consider how many student athletes there are around the country. So it becomes extremely important, if you care about the individual, for them to be successful in the university as well as athletics.
Another athletic topic, you and the Seminole Boosters recently started a fundraising drive for the football team to get an indoor practice facility. Mm-hmm. What's the financial goal on that, and what's the timeline do you have to?
So the goal is to raise $15 million. That's basically the cost for the facility. It's Coach Fisher's #1 priority, and that is, you know, basically I tell people the coach needs to control the weather. He needs to be able to have those players practicing and not have everything stop when a thunderstorm comes along. And so this is an advantage that many schools are developing, particularly in the southeastern United States, where there's a lot of thunderstorm activity.
And it's the lightning that has
And it's the lightning which shuts down practice. Safety is very important. We really would like to be able to break ground when the season is over and get it completed, because we're a very space-conscious campus, and it has to go on top of the current practice fields. So this is a timing that, if not this off season, then the next off season. But a lot depends on whether we can raise the money. I think we will.
You recently presented the Board of Trustees and the Board of Governors with an accountability plan for Florida's universities. Why do you think that it's necessary to do this?
Well, I think one of the things that we see is that as money gets tight, and all across the nation, public higher education is losing money, with that comes an outcry about what's happening. Are we giving up the future? And the counterbalancing argument is, well, no, we can become much more efficient in using the dollars that we have. And so what we need to do is make sure that universities are effective and efficient. And so everybody's talking about accountability. The National Governors Association has something called Complete to Compete. Get those degrees, then you can be competitive. And Texas has a plan, which a number of people have talked about, on how to create more efficiency. So this is a topic that's time has come. And what you watch out there is academics saying, no, leave us alone. This is what's reported in the paper. Leave us alone. We know how to do this ourselves. And my view is that doesn't help at all. What we should be doing is saying, okay, I may not agree with this measure that's being proposed by this think tank, but I can come up with a set of metrics that are balanced, that prove that this university is doing its job, and also enables us to do an even better job, and then even a better job, by focusing on outcomes, by focusing on those things that promote a stronger university.
What's the next step for that?
Well, the next step is that I presented this to our Board of Trustees because the governor gave me the Texas plan and asked for comments. And I have a number of trustees recently appointed by the governor. I know it's an important topic, so I developed a response. And I presented it to my Board of Trustees. It instantly became pressworthy. And so then the Board of Governors started to discuss it, my fellow presidents started to discuss it, and the Board of Governors has decided that they want to have a system-wide response and plan for accountability. So our chancellors put together a small group. I think it's about 5 of us. I'm a member, and we're going to present in November a draft of a plan that's system-wide for accountability for Florida universities.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barron. That's our time for now. Please join us again next month for more Issues in Education. You can watch the premiere episode of Issues in Education the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. That means you can see the next new episode on Wednesday, November 2nd on WFSU-TV. Join us as we discuss the latest developments in higher education happening around the state and across the country. If you would like us to address issues, have questions you would like us to address on this program, you can email us at issues@wfsu.org. Again, that's issues@wfsu.org. If you would like to see past episodes of Issues in Education, head to the President's website at president.fsu.edu. I'm Suzanne Smith with the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron, for Issues in Education. We'll see you next time.